The Indie Writers Club is brought to you by Publish Drive. With one click, self-publish your ebooks, audiobooks and print books to thousands of stores and libraries worldwide. And now you can start for free forever. Publish Drive's new free plan lets you publish your first ebook to 35 stores worldwide absolutely free. No subscription fees, no commissions. Keep 100% of the royalties. Get your titles online in just a few minutes at publishdrive.com.
It's the Indie Writers Club with Cara, Claire and James Blatch. A place to relax, chat, learn and vent about life as an independent author. Get episode alerts and links at indiewritersclub.com. Now, here's Cara and James.
Hello and welcome to the Indie Writers Club with me, James Blatch.
And me, Cara Claire.
Hey, how you doing? We are going to talk a bit about our own writing this week. Hopefully, we're still recording this pre our first launch, so not many people in our Discord server apart from our friends and family. Actually, not even our family.
Just I'm not letting my mum in there, are you kidding?
when you're a writer, you don't really talk to your friends in the same way as you talk to your writer friends about writing. No. It's impossible, isn't it?
No, they glaze over. And they sort of try to say things, and you say things like, "I've had such a hard week because I've just been, struggling with this character," and they just look at you like you're kind of loopy. So no.
I guess it's the same for people who are like surgeons. They can't come home and say, "Oh, there's a really tricky aorta valve today."
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like
feedback.
People kind of maybe relate to that a bit more because there's a lot of surgeons on TV. There's not that many shows that feature, somebody sitting at a keyboard, drinking loads of coffee, tearing their hair out all day.
Right. Miss Marple. She was a writer, wasn't she?
Was
it
she?
Miss Marple?
I don't know.
There's always a typewriter at the was it the Miss Marple ones? Who am I thinking
about? Yeah. But I think it just sounds so kind of, I always feel like I must sound like I'm moaning about something that sounds incredibly simple.
Yes, I know. Well, writing is simple, isn't it? Because everyone says, "Oh, I could write a novel." Well, yes. I think I might write a novel one day. And you're like, "Yeah, of course, it is easy. You should just do that." It's not Miss Marple. It's Jessica. What's her name? Jessica Fletcher.
Yeah, Jessica Fletcher. That's it.
Murder, She Wrote.
Yes.
She was I think that's the thing. And I don't know. That's a good story. It's a good story idea, though, to have an author. Make it very meta. Talk about meta. I did go and see Wolverine and Deadpool last night. Or Deadpool and Wolverine.
Did you?
Have you seen it yet? Are you going to see it?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
It's the most meta film you'll ever see in your life. Everything is an in-joke about the Marvel Universe, and he breaks the fourth wall all the time and says, well, until Disney buy it, we're not going to be doing that. And, the whole film is like that. And
I'm excited to see it, actually. I'm excited to see it. But I get a bit resistant when people talk about something really popular. And the same with books. If I haven't ever read the Sarah J. Maas books because everybody just goes on about them so much that I get a bit like, well, no, I'm not going to read it just because you've told me to.
I'm not going to be a sheep.
Yeah.
I'm not a sheeple.
Yeah.
That's your thing. Also, when people really big something up, it's quite hard. There's a classic film. Which one is it? It's The Shawshank Redemption. I had so many people tell me it's the most amazing
I love that film.
And it changed their life. So I sat there and watched it, and it was impossible for that film to meet that hype. And to this day,
I wouldn't say it changed my life, but I do love it.
Whereas other films you see, when I was at BBFC, for 7 years, I worked as a film examiner where you watch films months before they come out in the cinema and give them ratings. And because you knew nothing, that's my perfect way of watching a film, knowing absolutely nothing about it. Small, unheard of films had a huge impact on you. They were great. Anyway, that's waffling. Look, we're going to talk a bit about, today's theme is theme. We're going to talk about theme versus character and which one you should be focusing on when you write your book or whether you should or you shouldn't at all. But I think what we'll see our way into that is by talking about what we're working on ourselves at the moment and our word counts, because the word count is going to become a thing in this podcast.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's part of what we want, is to stay accountable and also to be really honest when we've had a really shitty week or a good week, share the highs and the lows. So do you want to kick off or should I kick off?
Oh, well, on that shitty week theme, I'll kick off. Yes. I don't think I've probably written anything in the last 7 days.
Okay.
It's been rough. Recently, I have not written anything. But
you've been away as well, haven't you?
Been away. No, it's actually true. I did write a little bit when I was away. So that may have crept in. I'm going to open my project. So my project is a working title called Stolen Angel. And it's my fourth book, and it's a character from my first book who was an MI5, a young woman MI5 officer in the very early. My books have to have a reasonable amount of authenticity in them.
Yep.
So it was the very early days of the odd female officer in MI5 and MI6. Funnily enough, in the Second World War, when we were running out people, there were lots of women, particularly in MI6, which is like our CIA in the UK. And they were incredibly brave, and most of them had horrible things happen to them behind enemy lines. But then, of course, the patriarchy takes over again, as we do. It's what we do. And by the 60s and 70s, there was a struggle to get women into the post. So anyway, she is a young woman, MI5 agent. So 4 years after that, she's a bit fed up. She's being passed over in work. But she does get drawn into a surveillance op, and she's there the moment they take down an agent, but they don't know who it is. But she's so bored that she's really into fashion. So she just reads lots of fashion magazines, and that's her thing. And because she's such a clinical mind as well, those two things combine nicely that night, because she can look at this woman lying on the ground and know there's something unusual about the coat she's wearing and the clothes and the shoes she's wearing. She knows a lot about this person just by looking at her, because the men have no clue. But things go wrong. She gets fired from MI6, and then she's desperate to get back in and do something. But she has this knowledge, and they still haven't identified her, but she realizes she probably can. So she ends up sort of freelancing a bit.
That actually sounds quite good.
Thank you. Yeah, so I do like the start. So the start of this novel is good. And I even went to Paris last year because I need her to go. Basically, she's worked out that this coat is a made-for-measure coat from the Dior store in Paris, because she knows the coat. She knows it's not available in the UK yet. It will be in the autumn collection, but she knows the only place you can get this coat, or the summer collection, the autumn collection, the only time you can get it before it's been distributed to stores around the world, is for those old-fashioned families in Paris who always go to the Dior store and always get made for measure, which they did as a tradition. This is all true, by the way.
I didn't expect you to have this much knowledge about
there's actually
fashion in Paris, if I'm honest.
There was a British film about Dior a few years ago. I learned all this then, so that was really good. And I've also watched that Coco Before Chanel is a great film to watch. So it's, I don't know, my wife's into fashion. You've met Jill. She quite likes fashion, so it does rub off. She's not a Christian Dior Prada person. She's more of a Gap, whatever, new look, whatever. Anyway, so she needs to get into the store, look at the customer list and work out who had this coat. But so I went to Paris and trekked all the way to the original Dior store, which is still there.
Did you take Jill with you?
No, I did not. I did it entirely by myself. She couldn't. I did invite her, but she didn't come. I had a nice weekend in Paris by myself. They were doing the Olympic tryouts at the time, practicing for the Olympics. So that's my kind of spy novel I'm working on at the moment. Stolen Angel is because at some point she is going to be lured across the line in East Germany and arrested. So this is all spoiling, obviously. Let me have a look at my history. I'm going to be really surprised if I've got something within the week. So the last writing was, oh my goodness, it was on the plane on the way over. It was August the 1st.
That's only 2 weeks ago. That's okay.
2 weeks ago. Okay. And I really ummed and ahed about this, and this is why I want to talk about plot and character today, to try and help me get a bit unstuck with this. But that's my work in progress. My fourth book, full-length novel, going to be a bit more spy, espionage, Jean le Carré than my previous.
I was going to say, it's a little bit different for you, isn't it? It's a bit slight divergence from your normal genre.
Yeah, my other stuff was a bit more Tom Clancy, Red Storm Rising, aircraft carriers and airplanes and stuff. So there will be a bit of that in this, but it's mainly going to be espionage. And I'm enjoying it, and I do have reasonable amount of plot worked out. But what are you working on, Cara Claire?
So the theme with me, whenever you ask me this question, is going to be loads of stuff, because that's just my life. It's chaotic. I'm between projects. So I launched a book 2 weeks ago. Anyone who knows me knows that I kind of binge write. I write in very short blocks of time, and then I need a while to recover. But the series that I'm working on is a mafia vampire series, which I'm just obsessed with, because we all know that mafia is huge in the Amazon charts right now. And actually, me and a group of other authors, we were at a mastermind last year, and we started talking about merging vampires, which is obviously the the trope that never dies, haha, with Mafia to kind of create our own genre, and that if we all wrote in this and launched around a similar time, we could try and create a bit of a splash. So I'm not writing in the shared world because I don't play well with others in that way. Like I can't stick to someone else's timetable, and I wanted it to tie in with my other main series. So the way that the vampires, the way that world is created had to fit in with what I, already existed in mine. So I couldn't share in the joint world that they've created, but we're all kind of doing cross promo and that kind of thing. So that's the main Cara Claire series that I'm working on. But I'm also just about to start another ghostwriting project, which I didn't intend to do. But I want to be open and honest about this sort of stuff, because I think people think once you've reached a certain level and you're a full-time author, that's it, happy days, just up, 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 up. My personal circumstances over the last year, I'm going through a divorce, all of that kind of stuff. My finances, my cash flow, if I don't want to drain my business and I still want to, continue growing my business, I needed extra cash. So it kind of was fortuitous that the company that I always worked for got in touch and said that a series I'd worked on before of 6 post-apoc books, they wanted to do another 3, and the writer that they already had for those 3, they didn't feel was such a good fit. They'd written about 10,000 words and it just wasn't gelling. And that was at the exact moment that I was kind of sitting there asking the universe for a sign about whether I should go back to it or not. So it's quite nice for me. I love working with these people and I love writing the books. So that made it an easier decision. The 3 books that I've got to write will take me over a year, and that will hopefully, ease the stress and allow me to still focus on my other stuff and make business decisions from a point of view of still wanting to grow my business, not from, having to juggle this precariously. So I'm working on those 2 things at the same time now.
And I bet the best thing about the ghostwriting from a business point of view is it's a fixed amount of income coming. So it's not like, will this book sell? I don't know. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, I didn't want to get into that position where I was chasing the next bestseller or making poor decisions because I was thinking, oh, heck, I need a certain amount of income level this year. So it's really just taken that pressure off. And it's still writing. It's still something that I love. But I do think it's important to be honest, because I think a lot of the time when you're in the Facebook groups and various author communities, you see that people, once they hit 6 figures, once they hit a certain level, you think, well, they've made it now. That's it. Nothing's ever going to be difficult ever again. But for me, it kind of coincided with TikTok being a little bit difficult and personal circumstances. So things are, ticking, excuse the pun, up again now, but that ghostwriting job has taken the pressure off for me. So I won't be able to talk so much about the plot with that one.
No. But when you say ghostwriting, are you talking about an author or not an author who's contacted you and wants their name on the front of the book, or is this a company?
So I'm kind of assuming that people know this already. I do fiction and I work for a publisher where their model is that they have teams of outliners who research what's popular. They come up with an outline. I get a 50 page document, which is the entire outline of the novel. And then I get paid per word to write it. And it's very collaborative. What I love about it is that it has a team feel. We have calls with the editor and me and the outliner. If I want to add something, I can talk to them about that. And the only difference is just that, I'm paid per word. It's published under a pen name, which, and I hand it off to them and I have no further royalties. But I write quick. So for me, it's a good thing to do for, income wise. And I do genuinely enjoy it. If I didn't, I wouldn't go back to it, but they're fun books to write.
Yeah, that sounds really good. The idea that somebody does a 50 page outline, I'm kind of thinking they might as well just write the book. I mean, that's a hell of an outline.
The thing is, it's really interesting, and this is why we could talk about this forever, but it taught me so much about, plot and character. The first part of the outline document is history on the characters, that sort of thing. I can't go into too much detail about how they structure it, but it's really it's taught me a lot about what to bring into my own writing. I do not outline to that extent, like I really don't, but it means that when I'm writing, all I'm thinking about for them is plot. So that's interesting with the plot versus character debate. I'm not thinking about the characters because they have fleshed them out for me. You know, I've spent some time mulling it over, thinking about them, getting to know them. And so literally all I'm thinking about when I write each chapter is just what is happening.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's interesting. So in terms of word counts, I'm going to try, I want to be, in an ideal world, I'd be writing at least 500 words a day, which I know is not a lot compared to a lot of people listening to this, but it would be a massive step up for me to get to that. So 500 words a day, which is easily doable because it's a 25-minute sprint, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's 25-minute sprint. I can do, you normally do about 600-700 words actually in 25 minutes. So that's doable. So I'm going to try and do 500 words a day between now and the next time we record an episode. And what are you going to do? Don't tell me you're going to do 10,000 words in an hour and then
I need 20,000 words this week on the ghostwriting project. So that's the goal. And the thing is, with the ghostwriting, I have to do it.
You're on different planets. You realise that?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm fascinated to get people's word counts and we need everybody's. If there's somebody else like me who's struggling to do 10 words a day, please do join the word count club, because that's what this is about, really. We can't always just have the people, I knocked off another 10,000 before breakfast.
Yeah, and also, it's
great, by the way. I don't want to denigrate that. It's fantastic, but it is almost like different planets.
But there will be times when I write nothing. Like, I've written nothing for the last 2 weeks. The ghostwriting thing is very different because I have to be a bit more consistent with that. But when I'm just working on my own stuff, I will not write for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I write a novel in a week. So there's people work in all different ways. That's why we want everybody to get involved and share, because it's only when you start talking to other writers that you realise, oh, hang on, there's actually nothing wrong with me if I can't write every day. Because I used to feel terrible about the fact that my brain doesn't function in that way. I cannot sit down and write 500 words a day. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this leads us on to talking about character versus plot, or character and plot. And this is something that I think we talk about from time to time, probably not enough about it to understand the sort of different ways of writing. It's also something I've been thinking about a lot, because I've been very guided about character by editors and my book coaches and stuff. But actually, I read a lot of every time I read a genre fiction book, like James Patterson book or Clive Cussler book, they're not really very character-y, these books. Mm-hmm. They're very plotty, plot-driven. So that, and if you Google character versus plot, which I did before this episode, try and get some inspiration. And actually, you don't get a lot back from Google. I should have used ChatGPT, shouldn't I? That's what you Google. Well, what you get back is, a character-driven plot is this, and a plot-driven plot is this.
Yeah.
They're different things. Of course, the reality is you need both. It's just to what degree. And I think probably the thriller genre generally is a bit more plotty. But romance and literary and fantasy, I think they're like Game of Thrones is basically almost entirely character driven.
Yeah.
The plot goes on in the background, doesn't it? I think probably you are more character driven than in your writing.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting for me, so I write paranormal fantasy romance, not contemporary romance. So a lot of contemporary romance is very much just character driven. It is, an entire book where really it's just about those characters and their relationship. I personally need a bit more action and the plot driven stuff as well. So for me, that mashup of fantasy and romance is the perfect kind of balance, because I get to do the character exploration, but there's also a decent amount of plot going on in the background. So, I mean, when I did the same as you, I did a bit of Googling, and one of the things that came up was from BBC Maestro. They do their their courses now. And it was a bit kind of rudimentary, really. It was basically saying, well, literary fiction is character driven, and it gave a bunch of examples, and genre fiction is plot driven. But I don't think that's true. I think within genre fiction, there are a lot of nuances and a lot of, even within a particular genre, within the thriller genre, you'll find different ways of doing things.
Yeah, I do think the emphasis for a good book to be successful. So one way of thinking about it, and I don't know who said this, is that plot is the reason somebody starts reading a book. Character's the reason they carry on.
Yeah.
They want to read the next one. So character has to be there. And I think probably we would be wise to make sure that we err towards character as being the thing that's prominent in our minds when we're writing, getting that right. I think it's an unsatisfying read when it's simply very plotty. And I do read those. I'm not going to quote which authors, but some of those I've previously mentioned, actually, sometimes a bit unsatisfying. It's just a series of events that happen. Whereas when you get something that takes off, like Suzanne Collins' Hunger Games, I thought the Hunger Games was this perfect blend of character development, and plot dovetailing. So the plot was quite important, the dictatorship and what was going to happen. But really, 70-80% of that story is Everdeen, Katniss's growing pains and wising up and realizing she has resources that she can employ, and that's all character.
Yeah, and if you removed her, and no, it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have. There's no way it would have been the hit that it was, because it was her. And it's the same with Harry Potter. It's the basic plot is it's still got to be good. It's still got to be robust, but it's kind of the same in post-apocalyptic, because people assume that is more aligned with the thriller genre, that it's more plot driven. And on the surface of it, it is. There's some sort of disaster. There's a post-apocalyptic world. They're usually trying to get to a safe place, or they're trying to protect their base camp. But really, it's the characters that make people read through the series. Like, if they love those characters, and it's that kind of The Walking Dead sort of thing, where it's, you get a school teacher who suddenly becomes a hero because they're thrown into these circumstances, and it's the bad guy who starts off as a real villain, and then you start to understand them a bit more, and they start to change throughout the series. So really, when you drill down to it, it's the characters that drag people through the series. It's not what happens to them.
Yeah. And I think Harry Potter's a good example of getting a really strong character and really strong plot. I mean, that's probably 50-50, because the plot's huge in Harry Potter. It's happening very quickly, this world that's around them. But the characters, especially that strong emphasis on three main characters who we get to know and love through that's a really strong example of getting both right side by side, which is hard. That's probably something we should be going for. Another big novel, I would say, is not like that. It's almost entirely plot driven. The characters are almost side to that, which is the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
So the Da Vinci Code is a page turning, fantastic book, but I would say it is 80% plot, 20% character. I can't really remember the character of Robert Langdon or I'm going to say Amelie, who played her in the film, the psychic. But so that shows it that way. Whereas you can't think of Harry Potter without thinking of the characters. Hermione.
I mean, so here's an interesting question though. What do you, when you first get your idea for your novel, what do you think about first? Is it a character who pops into your head first, or is it an idea for the plot that pops into your head first?
Yeah, that's good. For me, it is probably character.
Yeah.
I think my struggle is I do like the character stuff and I love all this stuff, but I think my readers are more plot driven.
Yeah.
And actually the negative criticism I had of my second book was where I probably shoehorned in a bit of male fragility into my main character that didn't need to be there, just because you kind of need, your character has to have flaws, right? It has to be struggling, some internal, external thing going on. And imagine Top Gun for a moment, the original Top Gun. Maverick is arrogant and cocky on the outside, but struggles because of the ghost of his father mucking up and him in his shadow, perhaps worried that he's inadequate in some way. And that was that was about all you needed, and it's only referred to a couple of times, but you know he's got this internal story. That was getting it right.
Yeah.
I think in my second book, I got it wrong, and I over-laboured this guy's insecurity, and I got a few people commenting. I mean, to be fair, the book's got 4+.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't get hung up on those. We always listen to the loudest, to those. We always give more weight to the negative things than the positive.
Let me tell you what I'm fantasizing about doing. Is
Is this appropriate?
It's not like one of your fantasies.
Oh,
Claire.
sorry, Cara.
It's rewriting that book. Just
really?
Rewriting it. I think I can rewrite that character instead of him being underconfident. He's a test pilot, so he shouldn't really be underconfident, making him cocky and arrogant, which has the same effects. His bosses are worried about him and causes problems. And it would be a much better fit for that.
No,
I probably felt at the time it was a bit of a cliche.
Not going to. Did you say you've got 4.5 stars?
Yeah,
average on that book.
4.2.
You're not going to get that up. I guarantee you, if you rewrite it, you'll then get people commenting that you've gone too far the other way. Never go back and rewrite unless it's truly dreadful.
I really want to. You're going to have to physically keep me away from the keyboard because I really. I think. I don't know if I'll just do it just for myself.
That's just a extreme procrastination. Instead of writing my new book, I'll just go back and edit my old one.
It would be wildly inefficient, wouldn't it?
You know what, though? I don't read reviews and I don't read my books once I've published them because I can't. So
4.3, 700 ratings. Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know. It stung a bit because I agreed with them. When people came back and said, I don't know how this guy's a test pilot, he's so underconfident. I think
you're better to use that knowledge and put it into practice in your next book than go back and rewrite your proof. This is an interesting thing, though. I mean, feel free to hop into the Discord and vote on whether, James should go back and rewrite.
Right. I don't know. Also, there's a question about how much you can rewrite under Kindle.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the rules are before you have to release it as a new edition.
Yes. Well, I could do a special edition, toughened up.
Let's shelve it for a couple of years and then see if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I should. You are absolutely right. I should be writing my new book. It's like when I have a day off, I'm going to rewrite that book. Anyway.
Day.
Yes, a day. Okay, so there we are. That's our projects. Now, we did actually go to our Discord server, even though we're recording this before we've launched the first episode, and ask a few people about character versus plot, and we got a few comments. So I like that one. I don't know where I heard it from, which is plot is the reason somebody reads a book, characters are the reason they stay, and like it. But Adrian Treves, he said, I've started to see it this way. Plot is stuff that happens, but it only becomes story when characters interact with it and each other. So I think that's a good way of looking at it, because that's that clever thing. That's the Everdeen Katniss thing in Hunger Games, interacting with the environment, the plot, the story around her, which changes her. I mean, that's the right way to do it, right? Yeah,
and I think that's the interesting differentiation between plot and story. Like, a story is the combination of both. Like, I really like that idea. Whereas plot is just, the things that happen. And then once you have that interaction and what's happening influences the character development and it all becomes really kind of tied in together, that's what makes the story great.
Yeah. So another thought just popped into my head, which is if you think about a big day in your life, wedding days. I know you're going through a divorce, so this might not be the biggest day in your life.
Yeah, carry on.
When you think about it, yeah. I'll plow on. You have a little quiet. But if you think about your wedding day and you want to describe something about your wedding day that you think about that sums it up for you, it's not likely to be a big plot moment like the vows.
Yes, yeah.
Or the moment I walk down the aisle even. It's most likely to be a smaller conversation. What was that?
Is that the ice cream van? You know what? I just thought a second ago, I can't believe we're recording at this time because there's an ice cream van nearby that goes past this time every day.
Now I want an ice cream.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. Anyway, you see, the point I was making is it's likely to be that small conversations. And I can remember a little conversation my wife and I had on our wedding day. So when you're writing the book, we get bogged down in the big plot moments, but the reason what stays with people are those.
Yeah.
If you just describe the big moments, it's not going to be a very interesting book. But if the moments happen around these interactions between your characters, moments they have, that's what makes it.
Yeah, and I think if you recommend a book to somebody, or you just finish a book, a lot of the time it's the character that you start with. You'll be like, well, it's about this woman who, and then or it's about this guy who's doing this, and you're left, it's the feeling that you're left with after the book. And like you said, you're not likely to pick out a few key plot points, maybe if there's a really cool twist at the end or something that really stood out, but a lot of the time it's the feeling that you get from the book that makes you love it, and that's usually to do with the characters and how they're changing and how they're interacting with what's happening to them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I completely agree with that. So I think when they adapt books into films, sometimes they get it either wrong or right, depending if you get that same feeling afterwards. If you don't get the same feeling from the adaptation, then it's not been done right.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely something we'll come back to, and we're very up for people commenting in the group. There were some other comments, I think, were there not? On...
Yeah, there was a couple of others. So Edward, I'm not going to do people's surnames because I can't pronounce them, said, I don't like the premise of character or plot. If I had to pick one, it would be character, only because plot is what your story is, but character is what endears your audience to the story. If you can't draw in your audience, you're dead in the water. So that kind of echoes what we were just talking about, which is, and I mean, there's always some exceptions. Like there are some stories where you're meant to hate the character. You're meant to dislike them. But even then, it's that's drawing you in. If you are meant to hate them, it will be the fact that you hate them that's drawing you into the story.
Yeah.
And I think even in things like, or particularly in things like police procedurals, and maybe it's to do also with reading through the series. So somebody might enjoy the first book and think, yeah, that was cool. But I don't think it would be a stellar plot that necessarily made them pick up the next one. It would be those characters that make you pick up the next one. Yeah.
And police procedure, I think, is a good example of this, because you think police procedure is all plot, right? But it really isn't. The good police procedure are very much characters. So we had a series here in the UK set in the north of England. What was it called? With
Happy Valley.
Happy Valley.
Yeah.
Happy Valley is like wrote the Bible on character-driven.
Amazing series.
Absolutely amazing series. If you can watch it on BBC World or whatever service it might be in the States, look up Happy Valley. I don't know if you'll understand all the accents. We didn't in the south of England. But literally the opening scene is with this slightly, been around cynical policewoman dealing with a youngster who's threatening to immolate himself on a
he's on a kid's playground, isn't he? Yeah,
it's playground. And I knew within the first sort of 2 minutes of watching this, I was going to love this series. And nothing had happened. Nobody had been murdered at that point.
It was purely her, wasn't it? Sarah Lancashire.
Her.
Yeah,
Sarah Lancashire playing it, absolutely fantastic. And another thing I was going to mention is that lovely. This is where when you do have strong characters, you can do all these lovely things with their arcs. And there was this moment towards the end. Well, actually, at the end, bit of a plot spoiler, but it involved fire.
Yeah,
and it was an echo of that very opening scene at the beginning, which is a conversation I had in the States. So I told you I told you in the last episode I have an author group in the States, and we sat on the beach in Maryland and then in Lucy's house there, and we discussed our various work in progress this is very exciting for Jill, my wife, and Mike, Senior's husband, who sat there rolling their eyes and they're talking about books again, and we're not made some cocktails. But I got a brilliant thing. So I've been worrying about overplaying the frailty and the fractured person stuff. I don't really want to do that anymore. So I was thinking about I wanted to make my protagonist a little bit ballsy. So my female protagonist, and we came up with a really good idea in these discussions, which is she's in MI5. It's 1970s, so the very end of the 60s. It's quite a class-ridden society here in the UK. And her secret is she comes from a council estate, and she pretends that she doesn't. She pretends she's like, Daddy's got a Porsche and lots of money, and he's put me through university, and of course, and she plays that because that makes her fit into this world. but secretly her father's a shady virtual criminal. And the guy she bumps up against inside, her boss, is called Skinner. He's going to be quite a sexist. He's the guy who's constantly stopping her making progress in the organization. He knows, of course, because it's MI5, they would do complete security. And he actually says to her a couple of times, with your background, you need to be more careful, type thing, that real classy thing.
I can picture him in my head. Yeah, I've got him.
Yeah. But Lucy Score, who writes brilliant romance books, is one of the world's top-selling authors. That she said, what would be lovely is if the thing that she needed to solve, that she got to solve, was something that she only could get because of her background.
I love that.
So something that her father, who maybe was a counterfeiter or something, something, can't be too shady because she did get the job in MI5, but there'll be something I need to work on there, and that would be lovely to have that moment.
I love that mirroring of or the fact that she would never have had that knowledge if it wasn't for exactly who she is.
Yes, and of course that then feeds into theme, which is something we can talk about in another week, which in her case, which is she didn't have to pretend to be someone else. And I do like pretending being the theme for this book because they're spies. So they're basically pretending the whole life, and she was pretending in her personal life, but she has to work out through this that actually she's got nothing to pretend about by the end of it. Which is one of those Pixar things, isn't it?
I'm kind of working. I haven't figured out what mine is yet. So my Mafia Vampire series. The FMC has a chronic pain condition. She's very she considers herself quite weak. She had an abusive ex-boyfriend. All of this stuff, and I want something to do with her illness to be important somehow, exactly like that. I want there to be something about the resolution of the plot over the series that would not happen if she didn't have that illness, that experience, something to do with the car crash. I don't know, it's on the tip of my brain, but it's definitely got to be something to do with what she perceives as her weakness ending up to be her strength. And because I think the way that people are going to expect me to take the series is that the vampire mafia guy turns her into a vampire and then she's not in pain anymore. And I do not want that to be the resolution. But I just haven't. So ideas on a postcard if anyone has any ideas.
Yeah. this is good because this is that exactly that seamless interweaving of character and plot that is the golden area, kind of the Venn diagram. You've got character and plot in the middle, but the gold bit of the Venn diagram is in the middle when they work together seamlessly, and that's what we should be aiming for. And it's this is why, by the way, writing a novel is hard. It
is, especially when you don't plot the whole series before you start writing, like some people. If I've written book 1 and then I'm like, I've got to write 2 more of these now. So at some point I need to figure out what's going to happen.
I do want to hear from people on this. I do get involved in our Discord discussions, whether you consciously think, I know some people just write books and they say, I just don't think about character plot, but that's probably because they naturally have an empathy and an affinity for this. But Elizabeth wrote in our group, when I'm writing my cozy crimes, I start with 5 or 6 characters, work on their backstories to the point where I know what makes them click, then work them into a plot. I don't always know who's the killer until right near the end.
That's so interesting to me. I would have thought
You'd think they'd write the last chapter first. These,
you would think you would know, because I've also got a crime pen name that I'm working on. We'll talk about that another time. Which is going to be, that's the book that's going to take me 10 years to write, because I want it to be perfect. But I know who the killer is in that. That was the first thing that came into my head. So this is what I find fascinating, though, and why I'm so excited to do this and to talk with other authors, because everyone does things differently. And it's just endlessly fascinating to me that every writer you speak to has a slightly different process. And I find that fascinating. But I think with Cozy Crimes, though, the characters are super important. That's another one of those things where that's kind of why people read it, not necessarily for the crime that happened, but for those characters and how they interact.
Yeah, definitely. And I picked up another police procedural I don't read a lot of them actually, but I picked up a Joy Ellis because she writes in my region, published by Joffe Books.
Yeah.
And she writes in this region where I live in East Anglia. So I was quite keen to read that. I'm sort of halfway through it. And this is very, very charactery. I mean, the first, almost to the point where the first sort of chapter is outlining what you know is going to be a series arc of this woman who has a dead child in her background and is always bumping up against authority. And she gets partnered with a young, quite enthusiastic Christian sergeant, and that's all done in the first. And all of that is character. And there's the plots. There's a bit of plot mentioned at the beginning, but not much. But that's again is probably the way to do it. So that's funny. The thrillers, I think, police procedurals are not like the James Patterson, Robert Ludlum, Bourne Identity. Also, those thrillers are the ones that are probably more plotty than they are character.
Yeah.
But police procedurals seem to be very strong on character. In fact, I had a chat with one of our Vinci authors this morning, Andrew Lowe, who writes brilliant British police procedurals, and he's coming up with a new series which will be launched next year. Ooh. And we were talking about exactly that, and he was outlining the character arc. When we asked him about the story, he was outlining the character arc. He mentioned, I have no idea who's dead. Or whether, but I'm assuming, Cara, someone's going to be dead. But,
at some point, you would think, Yeah.
But all character. So good. Okay. Well, look, I've actually made some progress myself during this discussion. I think that little Venn diagram,
because I convinced you not to rewrite your book.
I don't know if you have convinced me. It's my secret wish is to rewrite that.
No.
A special edition. I'll get our friend at Book Vault to print a special edition with strong red in it. The strong red edition.
Okay, I'll make you a deal. When you finish this one, your current work in progress, you can go back and do it.
Reward.
That's your reward.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
That does make sense. Okay, look, we are going to release these couple of episodes at the same time.
Yeah.
We plotted out at a meeting last week.
Did we?
We did plot out when we were going to record next, which I think is the 21st. So that is 6 days' time.
Yeah.
So I hope to be reporting a word count to you.
Yes. Well, I have to report a word count of 20k to you. If not, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, okay. And obviously people on Discord can't. We're going to have a couple of these episodes ready to go on launch day, which means we're just slightly weirdly recording before we've launched anything. But once we're past September the 6th, it'll be live each week, and that's when your word counts can really kick in. But for now, it's probably going to be us and our friends.
Yes.
We have friends.
We do have friends.
Yes. What are you saying? You don't have friends, Blatch. We have friends. Good. Okay. What a great discussion.
I know, I'm enjoying myself. It's just, honestly, this is why it doesn't feel like work, though.
Yeah, exactly.
When you said, I had to go to America and talk to my author friends. This is why our friends who aren't authors think that we sound like idiots.
That was rather pleasurable, though. And you can watch this on YouTube.
Yeah.
I guess I'll put the YouTube up by the time this goes out, but it's invariably going to be indiewritersclub.com/YouTube.
Yeah.
It'll be the short link to get you there. But you can listen to it. I know most people still listen to podcasts, but we'll have it on YouTube as well. Good. Excellent. So honestly, even if the only people listening to this forever are you and me, I'm still benefiting from it. So
yeah, I mean, it will keep us accountable to each other at least.
Yes, exactly. All right, Cara Claire.
All right, James Blatch.
Thank you very much. Yeah, see you next week.
Sign up for episode alerts at indiewritersclub.com. Come and chat with us at our exclusive Discord server at indiewritersclub.com/Discord. Or join our Facebook group at indiewritersclub.com/Facebook. And you can support the podcast at indiewritersclub.com/support. And don't forget to share your weekly word counts, because no matter what you've achieved this week, we're here to cheer you on. Thank you for being part of the Indie Writers Club.
The Indie Writers Club was brought to you by Publish Drive. With one click, self-publish your ebooks, audiobooks and print books to thousands of stores and libraries worldwide. And now you can start for free forever. Publish Drive's new free plan lets you publish your first ebook absolutely free. No subscription fees, no commissions, keep 100% of the royalties. Get your titles online in just a few minutes at publishdrive.com.